Oh, there we go. There's the audio. Now it's working. Here, we'll scoot a little this way. And hi, welcome. Hope everyone's well. We're going to be doing this on Instagram too, if that's what you're waiting for. We have to get this started in a second. This is just going to be a test to make sure Everything's coming in smoothly on all the streaming platforms. It looks like it's good. Is it you?
Oh, gross.
I'm going to open one of these. Here's a little audio treat for you guys. I always like that. Don't like ASMR, but I like that sound. All right. Let's make sure. I'm going to pause that. I'm going to check the chat. Let us know if you guys can hear us and see us and everything's good to go, and then we'll go ahead and get going, and I'll go ahead and kick it off on Instagram, and we'll hop into talking about Sandman. Also, can we get some Taylors in the chat? Just write Taylor. You can just write that, and this is a hi. You made Taylor read. I can't believe you made Taylor read this. No, we'll hop into it. We'll talk about it because I want to talk to you about Neil Gaiman.
Yes.
And your other favorite books from him. That's looking okay. We got the chat that's going. I'll say hi to them. Is it live?
Yes.
Okay, so they're going to start filtering in, and we'll start looking at you guys and you guys. We're getting close. We can almost do both at the same time. But yeah, let's go ahead and kick it off. I'm going to make sure that's good to go. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Sam. I'm sure you probably figured that out based on where you guys are watching. Thanks to everyone who's joining us live on Instagram right now. It's very nice of you to join. Comment down below anything, and we'll say hi. We got a shout out to... Oop, words are too small. I see Mickey Rourke. He probably joined us in the chat below. Huber Motley Jr., Supermac, Abrox, Interrise, Caesar Rojas, Danny Boy, Danny M. Thank you guys for joining us live here on YouTube or Twitch or Periscope or Instagram, because we're going to be talking to all four of you guys. And also in the chat right now, I see you guys are saying hi to Taylor. Hi. I'd like to properly introduce as my girlfriend, Taylor. Oh, you guys be nice. You guys have been very nice so far. If you guys follow me on Instagram, and you guys do, then you guys have seen me post pictures of her. But Taylor does a book club called Drunk Poet Society, which you should check out, where they talk about normal adult books.
No, we've had this discussion
regular
before.
Books.
Yeah, well, because we've had this discussion before, and we did read Watchmen on DPS, Drunk Poet Society. So we do read graphic novels. Mm-hmm. The debate on the title of book/novel is ongoing, mm-hmm. but
it's been fun.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's good to be able to check out different mediums and different genres, and so it's exciting to talk about Neil Gaiman's prolific run on Sandman for DC Comics, because we're going to talk about the history and just an overall review, because you've read and reviewed
we did
Good Omens.
Yeah, we did Good Omens.
And I know you read American Gods and Norse mythology.
And and I started Anansi Boys, mm-hmm. but I have not finished that one yet.
And which is your personal favorite?
I mean, I loved American Gods. I also did like the show as well. Mm-hmm. But Good Omens, we talked about so much on the podcast. Like, that was just what I bought the book after reading it, so like I know I'm gonna reread it at some point. And even just, it was at the same time he was working with Terry Pratchett and writing Sandman at the same time, and just having that whole kind of back and forth in their writing styles together was really cool to kind of uncover and learn about. Mm-hmm. I haven't read much of other Terry Pratchett stuff, but I really like Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, I used to say Gaiman or Gaiman. You know, it's it's like one of those names that you just read. Like I know Sam Keith was the artist for 5 of the issues of Sandman. Volume 1, we're talking about Sandman Volume 1 Oh no, it's on the image. What's it called? It's Preludes and Nocturnes. Yeah. That's what the volume is called. We got the comic right there. We'll have it for reference, because this is a dense book. So we're gonna be talking about a lot. Also, Danny M in the chat. You're backwards on Instagram. I have literally no idea how to fix that. The feed is mirrored. So it's really confusing. Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, I have no idea how to fix that. So we'll just keep going in with it. I can't believe you made Taylor read this yet. All is good. Also,
hey, it was my pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, after starting reading it, because I had just read it in like the past 2 days, I realized I definitely had read the first couple of issues prior to, because it was all coming back to me, but I hadn't finished Volume 1. So now I'm glad I finally did, and totally going to continue. So nice.
And Danny Boy in the chat says she's got a very cool podcast. So
Thank you
got
very
a
much,
listener
Danny Boy.
joining right now. And the reason we picked this also, not only because you're a fan of Neil Gaiman, Neil, yeah, he's a buddy. Neil. Is because it's free right now on Hoopla, which is a streaming service that hooks up to your local library. They give you digital comics, digital books, audio books, movies. And there's a bunch of options, so please check it out. Also, Comixology Unlimited. I think they're doing a 60-day free trial because of everything that's happening right now with COVID-19. So, and they have comics from Marvel, DC, indie publishers, and specifically Vertigo as well, which this was DC's first Vertigo book, which was their more adult, weirder genre. And kind of diving into the history of the book, Neil was approached by one of the publishers at DC, one of their editors, and they were asked, like, did you want to work on something? He had vaguely pitched an idea to work with a Sandman character, which, if you guys are familiar with DC, there's like 7 of them. There's a bunch of different Sandman, including the one we're going to talk about today. And he had pitched for one of the superhero ones. And they're like, we want something, we want an original character, but you can just use the same name, but do something crazy. And that's what he did, because Morpheus, or Daniel, which I think he gets a name later in future books, is just the anthropomorphic idea of dreams or sleep, or he's the Sandman. So I checked out this book, just the history of it. I checked it out a couple years ago with my podcast, Only Stupid Answers, because we did a little comic book club, but I don't think I could get DJ to read it. So I read it based on the recommendation of Kate, and Kate Houlihan. Actually, I have it in the Discord. I pulled up. I'll search her review really quick. But what are some of the things that you like most about Neil Gaiman?
Just in general? I think the storytelling style, like even Norse mythology, I think for the most part, most people have some kind of grasp on, like, a little bit, even like with all the Thor movies and stuff coming out. We have a little bit of a grasp of like Norse mythology, but I both physically read and listened to Norse mythology kind of like simultaneously, so I would go on runs and like listen to the audiobook, and he's just got a really entertaining way, as well as like looking at things from a very character development angle. So it's like you're getting the story arcs, but you're really watching like these characters unfold as well, and I think he does a really good job of kind of balancing that, which some authors, take different tactics. But I saw the same kind of storytelling in this graphic novel, where it's like you're really starting to uncover characters while still getting the story arcs. So just in terms of storytelling, I really liked that. But in terms of like beats, I guess, in the stories, I liked in the beginning when you're seeing certain characters, like even, you're introduced to these 6 people and you're seeing them. I don't know if you can see this at all.
Oh, you can try. Here, let me see. Can you see?
But anyways, it's like, I'm just showing it on my iPad, but it's like you get introduced, like in the very first issue, like there's certain characters, they're telling you the story, and then they're
I got some assets too. Yeah.
Hey.
Nice.
And so then they're coming back to them as well, so you're seeing them in the dream state, you're seeing them like not wake up, and it's just a nice cyclical thing. So you're I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but it's like, so you're kind of seeing how these characters evolve, even though they're not main characters and they don't really come back later. At least you're feeling more connected to the storyline, as opposed to it just being like, and then the dreams took over, or it could have. Anyways,
I like the to build off that, I like with that, it's a good way to give context to the fact that that this magician captured the idea of sleep and dreams and the positive aspects that can have on people, and by them choosing not to let this person go, but let this thing go. It's not a person, but it the irrevocable damage they do to the fabric of all society and possibly other planes of existence. When they talk about, like, the last issue deals with Death kind of razzing her younger brother, because it's like, you're like being a baby, you're sulking, you wanted revenge and you got it, and now you don't know what to do with yourself. Just do what you did. Like, you can do anything you want. And
I even liked the intro of Death, because one, I love when people put the caricature of death into stories, and there's so many books out there. Like, we read one on the podcast called Reincarnation Blues, which had really interesting versions of death. Really cool one. Really quick synopsis on you if you want a cool book. The essence is that it's you get 10,000 lives to reach nirvana, and basically you have to figure out kind of the meaning of life in order to reach nirvana. And Milo, who's the main character, is on his like 9,996th life, and so he has very few left to get it right. Otherwise, you just disappear into nothing. And their interpretation of death is also very cool. There's a few different deaths, but this interpretation of death, when you're introduced to the character, originally he's just sitting there, like, feeding the birds some bread. Dream, like Sandman is, and then this like very lovely, like, goth-looking girl, like, strolls in, and at
Very
first...
clear this book was written in the 80s.
Yeah.
With the style. It's very good.
But you think, like, it's not immediately introduced. I think some people probably got an immediate, oh yeah, that's probably death. But originally you're like, oh, maybe this girl's just gonna, like, flirt with this being, and then you immediately find out who it is. But I liked that introduction as well.
Me too. No, and that's actually my favorite issue of the book. But I do like setting the table for how the abstract works. Like, so Morpheus escapes, and he immediately gets revenge on the son of the guy that captured him by putting him in that endless sleep over and over, or endless waking, where he keeps waking up and it's still a dream, and he keeps waking up and he keeps waking up. Even when he's dead, he still has to do this over and over again. And he goes on his mission to find like his tools. It's the helm, the ruby, and the bag of sand, which all of those, I like every single one of those stories. But yeah, no, I like the death issue the most, but going back from the beginning, moving forward, the first issue, I kind of had trouble connecting with it until it got to the revenge aspect of what this character was going to go through, what he was going to do, and where he had to go in order to get back what was his own. And I always like when an artist like Sam Keith, who did the first 5 issues, is able to take such abstract concepts, but able to make them... I think horror is a good avenue for people to take the abstract and make them more understandable for human eyes, because it's supposed to be nonsense. Because if it's dream world, or if it's hell, or if it's any of these other abstract places, you shouldn't be able to have an idea of what they are. They should be everything and nothing at the same time. So seeing Sam Keith, like when we have the John Constantine issue, and he goes and gets the sand back from the junkie, which is a harrowing issue. You see that, like, the dad exploded basically and became the skin inside the house, and
and also the artist depiction of that too. Like, I was a little bit like, let's just skip through this. Because, like, you wanted to look at it because it was so well done, but at the same time, I was like, this is disgusting.
Oh yeah, and when John starts to get sucked into the dream and he starts falling, and his bones start disappearing, and he becomes just like a sack of a person. Dear Lord, that is awful. Also, there's Sam Keith is Chef's Kiss by Danny M in the chat, because Sam Keith worked on the Max, and he was like the seminal artist for 1980s comic art, and it's a bummer that he didn't stick with it. But I do have the name for the artist who picked up after him, and for most of the series, Mike Dringenberg, who went on and he did the death issue. So and some of the other ones. Yeah, but this first issue is super dense, and I do like everyone they introduce. Sorry, now I remember what I was mentioning. Like when he dives through other people's dreams, and you start to see, like, in this issue, you see like Elvis and John Wayne and Marilyn Monroe.
If anyone can see this, that was the page we were looking at.
Yeah, and and then he gets to his own realm, but we also run into Cain and Abel, but they're more the cornerstones or the tent poles of archetypes and stories. And you feel so bad for Abel, because I've read recently they started doing Sandman comics again, and there's a book called The Dreaming, and Daniel Morpheus' dream doesn't have anything to do with it. It's all the other characters that they introduced throughout this series that are being dealt with, and you see Cain and Abel are still having, like, they're still bad. Abel's still being murdered over and over and over again. And I even like the gargoyle they introduce.
And he wanted to name him Irving.
Like, nope, gargoyle's got to be G names. That's the rules. And so they call him.
I'll call you Irving.
I know you're Irving, and you feel so bad for him. And I'm excited to read more about those two characters specifically as this series goes on, because I like them. I like the interpretation of them. Also, the librarian that's left behind in the realm of the dreaming. That's like, yep. Things started falling apart, and you can see the different aspects and the different archetypes being affected in different ways. Like the pop culture starts changing from like the flapper girl, and now she's like a post Madonna, whatever. Like they start talking about how things have evolved because of his absence, but because of people as well. But the chunk of the story is getting back his devices, his tools.
I feel like that's kind of the running theme throughout this first volume is like the whole point of it is he wants to get back his tools and revenge. Like those are the main things. And then at the end we find out like the revenge thing, is kind of a little different than what he thought he was going to do. Really quickly before I forget, I just want to say one of my favorite things is how Sandman's voice is in black with white lettering as opposed to the other way around. It just aesthetically is very pleasing to me. I think it looks really cool.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that Death didn't have anything like that, because she speaks normally.
Yeah. But I appreciate that it's just his voices in that specific...
It feels abstract.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that he's even speaking feels like it's otherworldly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, personally, as they get into his, like, mission to get back his tools, my personal favorite was John D., or Destiny. That was because that's the grossest version of him I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They show an image of him where he has got like a cloak on and he looks like a skeleton. Like it's nothing. It's like it's supposed to be a made up costume, but in this, my understanding is that he just hasn't slept he doesn't sleep anymore. He's not able to dream anymore because he doesn't have his ruby. So he's become like this decrepit kind of monster. But I did like and also if you guys aren't a big fan of like superhero comics, what I've understood is they don't really deal with any other DC characters moving forward after the first issue, because I think they were really trying to be like, this is an adult book, but all the characters you like can make appearances. So like you get Martiander sees him as like a big pillar of fire, which is terrifying. Oh, also the crone, it's called Hecate, but it's the crone, what was it? The crone, the old woman, or the hag, the crone, and the right there, the maiden, All-Mother, and then the crone. Yeah. Those are the three, which I like that you see them switching around as they're talking with him, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I liked, the one question and whatever, and that it was like a small moment, but it was like I like those kind of moments where it was, okay, you get one question and one answer, and he would always go to like ask the next question. He's like, okay, I got it, and that felt very kind of old school, like fairy tale, where it's like there's these rules, and I like, okay, that's just a little side note, in comics and books and anything, I like when rules are created and they're stuck to, where there's a lot of times people create rules and they find it hard later, so they kind of like skim around the rules, and I'm like, wait a minute, in this universe you told me this can happen. I like when things are created and then they stick to them, and like, it makes it really tough, but
like they're harsh rules for how this world can function, and it's cool. And but as we get through the mission, John Constantine's very cool because he was a character meant for like more adult audiences, and it was cool that he was kind of created around the same time this was written. So I don't know, did you ever see the Constantine movie with Keanu Reeves? It's the whole idea for his character is that it's more serious magic, and he's the one who's willing to send his friend down the river if it meant he could save the world. He's the guy who makes the hard calls, and he's unbelievably selfish. And so seeing him in this kind of and also he's grimy. He's like he's like a bloke. He's constantly smoking, and he deals with the devil all the time. And he's always managed to like kind of like figure out ways to basically he's able to do deals with the devil and get out of I'm rambling now, so I'll move on, but yeah.
But I was I like going back to, I was gonna skip kind of way ahead there. That was the whole really gross scene. But it was more so the drive with Destiny, Dr. Destiny, right?
Yeah.
And the woman.
Yeah, he just picks up a woman when he escapes.
And it's one of those moments where he's not going to do the right thing. Like, in my gut, even reading this, I was like, there's no way he's going to, spare this woman's life. And the woman's driving is like, and she starts to, like, warm up, and there's a coat in the back, and, like, oh, maybe if I talk really nicely to this guy. And it's, like, tactics that, like, genuinely you would try if you were found in a situation with a crazy person who, at gunpoint, And then at the end, he gets out of the car, and she really genuinely thinks she's gonna just, like, drive away. And for a second, you have, like, this hope that, he's just gonna let her go. But he's crazy, and he just, like, pulls the trigger and walks off, and you're just like...
Oh, that, but coupled with the whole entire issue that's dealt with the diner, where, like, over and over again, they make them relive nightmares, or they make them lose their minds, where they start killing each other, or killing themselves, like, they're, like, nailing their hands down, or one guy fully takes a bite out of another guy, that whole, or, like, they, like, have sex with each other, like, the whole thing is pretty harrowing as an issue, but you see that it's doesn't mean anything to John D. He's a bad person. Also, when they do go to hell, I love the personification of the three different devils. You have Lucifer, who looks a lot like actress from all Wes Anderson movies. She is... I feel so bad for not knowing her name. She's in Doctor Strange as well. She's the guy she's the person who trains Doctor Strange. I'll throw it to the audience if you guys want to give me the answer, because I can't. Yeah, in Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton.
I get
is
strong
that
Tilda Swinton energy from that drawing. Even though like Lucifer, I'm guessing it's a guy, but it's like that first image where I was like, oh, I could. It's more ambiguous, but also Beelzebub and.
Yeah, thanks everyone who's shouting Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it. Also, Instagram's gonna be way faster than the other streams, but yeah, Tilda Swinton, thank you, Super Mac. There's a super cool fan-made film of the Diner issue on YouTube, says Zach. Zach, let us know where we can find that, because that'd be really cool to check out. But the whole...
Ooh, actually, that was a cool scene, too.
Oh, yeah, when he's trying to fight with the demon.
So, the demon, I have mixed feelings about this scene. I think the concept of it is cool, because I like the idea of, I am, and you just have to keep beating each other like, well, I am an amoeba. It's like, okay, well, then what can kill that? You can be like, I'm 99.9% killing of germs hand sanitizer and whatever. That didn't happen in the book, but it could have. Anyway, so they had to keep like saying things as to why you would kill the other person until it got to a point where someone didn't have an answer, and Sandman wins, and because he says he's Hope, and the demon doesn't know how to beat Hope. Cool concept. I think the way they illustrated was cool. I liked a lot about it. If they were actual literal demons, though, is this how they would handle a conflict?
Mm-hmm. I like that it's... You're not wrong. But I think the only thing I could say is that since it's all abstract, it's more about since he embodies the idea of it, you can't really make sense. If someone's able to stay hopeful that something good can happen to them or they can get out of this situation, what's he going to do?
No,
that being said,
but I'm like, if you were literal devils and demons in hell, I feel like it would just be a lot more barbaric than like, it almost looked like they were in a jazz club and they were like scatting to like beat each other. And it was like, and now off to you. And I was just like, I don't know if a demon would actually fight this way. Like, it seemed like they fight too fair.
I get that. But did you also, Etrigan, I'm a big fan of that. He's the yellow demon who introduces him to hell. He is like more of a DC character, and he always speaks in rhymes, and he is Merlin's one of his friends betrayed him, and then he cursed him to be half demon, half man. So if the man says a poem, he becomes a demon and walks the earth. Now the demon can't kill anybody and do anything bad, but also the man can never die now, so he has to walk the earth forever as a demon and as a man. So I really like that concept. Yeah. Also, I love the idea for him getting out of hell is that every single one of them dreams of going to heaven, so I have more domain here than you do, and he's able to walk cool, out because it's such a badass move for the character to do. But John Dee's entire encounter, like the fact that the jewel can't be held by Morpheus, he's like, no, it's been tainted. John Dee's been using it for so long that it's no longer his, even though it is his own power. And I love the moment where he breaks the jewel. There's no way that Morpheus dies in this issue, but when he breaks it and John feels like he won for a second, and you see Morpheus as this like 500-foot tall being, there's something just so otherworldly about it that a human wouldn't be able to process what he'd be seeing in a realm like this. And I do like the way that the artist brought that to life, because it is truly frightening that Morpheus is a frightening character. You know, like he's scary looking. He doesn't really have eyes. It's just like sunken holes where like sleeping powder or stardust comes out of. You know, it's like he's frightening.
I really like the look. That's another artistic thing that it was. I was sold on that.
Oh yeah. They literally became the concepts they named. Hubert Motley Jr. Yeah, those were with the battle in hell. That was really cool. Davey Backwards Dev, thank you for the love my team emotes in the Twitch chat. We appreciate that. So in the Constantine movie, Tilda Swinton did play a character. She played Gabriel the Angel, which was really cool. We gotta refresh the stream here. The internet might poop out on us, but I think we'll be okay. We're still on Insta. Just a few quick shouts. I did like the shout out to Scott Free, who was this character right here, the kid who was escaping from the fourth world, who Morpheus goes to help him find whoever John Dee is to be able to track him down, because Scott Free is just one of my favorite characters. He was the Mystery Miracle book that I definitely talked about on Instagram. I think I mentioned to you. It's one of my favorite books. So frightening. The entire premise for him, that I like that he gets saved in his nightmare, because he was from this other world where he as a bargaining chip with his father, was basically given over to stop a war, so he was allowed to be tortured for his entire life. But he chose to escape, and he learned how to escape and escape and escape and escape. But he'd constantly be... So his nightmare is that he keeps getting caught and thrown back into the prison, so I like that Morpheus is able to save him. Also, totally forgot for a moment, when he's in hell and he sees one of his lovers, and he's like, I don't forgive you. And it's been like thousands of years, and he leaves her in there. You're an awful person. Like, he's like not a person. He is... And it could be that he's so gung-ho with the revenge, like... mission that he's on right now that he's not willing to even give her a second thought. But I do know we do come back to her and we do learn more about what happened, which cool. I don't know if that even constitutes what he's doing to her, but we do learn about what happened between the two of them. Man, okay, so the chat kind of pooped out, so I'll have to read it from the other streams, which is fine. We got it right here. Thank you to everyone who's watching live. We appreciate it.
Anyone have any questions or
Oh
comments?
yes, no, I did want to read from the Discord some comments. Also, I did like seeing Dr. Crane. They show him as the Scarecrow when he's like hung by the noose, because his entire mission is he can't feel fear anymore, so he keeps trying to do these things to scare himself or scare others so he can feel it. So him being like strung up
and also
and
his
not
constant
doing
like talking about like this fear is called blah blah phobia, and every time he's like,
he's a cool character, and God, John Deet looks so disgusting.
I don't know if anyone could see this, but this image, oh
frightening.
My God.
I did want to see Sandman. We did Danny M, or Danny X. The X is for Extreme, who does his own comic podcast, which you should check out. Make sure you put it in the chat, Danny. I like it, but it's a lot more dense than I would normally read. I really want to be in the mood to dive into comics like this. I get it. It does ask you. It does ask a lot of its reader when you get into it.
But I also feel like that's like a... Yeah, it's not like one of those like feel good, I can read it any time kind of comics. Ooh. It's like even Lock and Key. I started that one, but you really have to be in a mood, and I often don't want to read that right before bed.
Yeah, it makes sense, and I do not disagree. All I have to say is that it's this is from Cam Senses. I finally finished Sandman. All I have to say is that it's perfect. One of my all-time favorite series. Oh wow! And then later they got into they're 9 volumes in, which is amazing.
I definitely have to keep reading them.
Yeah, me too. I'm currently working on Sandman. Kate Houlihan was the big proponent for us reading it originally, and she's a big supporter of the podcast. Just want to give her a shout out as well. Hopefully all you guys are staying safe right now, wash your hands, social distancing, doing all the good stuff, and hopefully share this video around. If anyone wants to read a comic, let them know where they can read it, and they can come here and discuss with us, which would be fun. But yeah, I did, if you guys have any questions, make sure you send them to the chats. I will pull them up and we will read them live.
When anyone hears Sandman, does anyone else think of that, cat that went kind of viral, who it was like the 9 frames?
Oh yeah,
like,
I did try to download it.
Mr. Sandman.
That's a good video. Yeah, no, if you guys also find that video, please put it in the chat. I'll make sure that the link gets approved, and we'll share it with everybody. But I think the biggest takeaway that got me interested in the book, besides like having this like otherworldly creature on a revenge streak to try to get back what was his and also right the wrong that he had suffered for like 70 years, is the entire issue with Death when he's following his sister around and seeing what she does, and talks about that like people praise me, they praise the other members of the Endless, these concepts that make up our entire reality, but they don't. No one worships Death. Like no one appreciates what she does. And the little repeating line of you could hear her wings flapping. It's like this chill that I felt through my heart of both. I mean, it's just grief. You're feeling like you feel this relief that like they're not suffering anymore. But also, it's that person doesn't get to be around anymore. Like, especially the baby, when the baby's able to talk, and it was like, that's all I get? And it was like, heart-wrenching.
That was an interesting one. Any kind of storyline that broaches the topic of death, I feel like, it's like what I said before. It's like even the incarnation of death that they choose to, portray them as or whatever. It's always really interesting what an author chooses to like discuss about the concept of death. And I think Neil, my BFF Neil,
friend of the show,
friend of the pod, he discusses it, at least in this in a very interesting way, where it's I guess I don't want to reiterate everything you just said, but
Yeah.
it is interesting, the discussion where it's people want to postpone it, they want to do everything, they don't worship death, they don't, it's this one thing where they're just like, anything to get away from death is what people want to do. It's, but also interesting,
but like death loves them. Death doesn't hate anybody. Death is there to make sure
the
that
most
the
like
process is sweet.
impartial person
Yeah.
ever, you know.
And I do like that the guy flirts with her.
Yeah.
Like the frisbee player, which is like, yeah, it's the 80s. Makes sense.
And you know, like as soon as I read, oh, and I'll see you again soon, whatever his name is, you're like, oh, he's dead.
Oh yeah, he's dead. I hope it's not too bad. It's a little bad. He doesn't like die in like a super nice way, but also she made it as painless as possible, which I mean that's the best you can hope for, right? I did want to throw up. Thank you to everyone on Instagram, but I am able to put a few assets up on the other streams, and I just found this piece of Morpheus, and I really like it, and I just want to give a shout out again to the artists of this series, because not only the cover artist, but does the internal artwork as well. Every single piece that I've ever seen is beautiful, and if you guys want to, again, Hoopla I think has the entire run, and you can read it for free, and if you go to Comicsology Unlimited, the first 3 volumes, and the second volume has one of my favorite ideas for a conflict, and I can't say more because when I read it, I was like, oh, there's a bunch of creeps hanging out here. Like, what is this? And when you find out what it is, because it's all code, but when you realize what it is, it's so... I felt my heart sink in my chest, but also I couldn't be more intrigued to figure out what happened next. And it's something special. I've read, because you've read Neil's other written work, but I've read another comic from him where he wrote for Marvel called 1602, which was if the Marvel characters started showing up at the turn, like right when English people were coming over to colonize America. And there's something really sweet and haunting about like taking those characters and kind of dumbing them down to that like level of technology and the societal standards for some of them, like where mutants were labeled as witch blood and they were hunted by the Catholic Church, and you get to see that some mutants like infiltrated the Catholic Church, and it's these ideas that Neil had and was able to execute perfectly, and the art in that is kind of similar to like giant sprawling paintings you'd see in museums. So it's beautiful, and so the way that Neil's able to work with artists and other creatives to make something like this there's no reason for me to say that he's a great author. You know that. He's got multiple TV shows and movies and plenty of awards, and also Sandman's like a cornerstone for the genre, and it's a benchmark. It's a high watermark for what this genre can be when it comes to the way they tackle stories and also tell the stories, because there's plenty of books that deal with abstract, right?
Yeah.
Like Neil's done that before, and he's dealt with like gods that walk around like in American Gods or Norse mythology.
Oh man, also that's one where when we were at Emerald City Comic Con, I saw the graphic novel for American Gods, and I don't own it and I've not read it. I've read the book twice now, but that's one that I want to own because the art looked awesome for it. I don't know if any of you guys have checked out the graphic novel for American Gods, but it looks super cool. So but yeah, he touches on some really cool, again, his storytelling ability to bring to life these ideas, or not people, but like concepts and personify them in such a wonderful, relatable way is really cool. That's why I like him so much.
Me too. I checked out the first 3 issues or 3 volumes because they were free, but I'd be more than willing to buy the rest of them just because I want to know more. And Morpheus is a complicated character, but in a way that you both hate him and I guess I don't hate him, but I don't like some of the decisions he makes. But it's in that realm of like, well, he sees the chessboard like 10 steps up or 10 steps ahead. Yeah. Like he doesn't see things day by day like we do. He sees them in a much bigger way. So you can't really hate him, but you can be mad sometimes based on his decisions. There's actually in the volume 2, he gives someone immortality and then he meets with them every 100 years to see how they're doing. And it's just in the same bar, and you just see this man's like life become amazing, and then like the plague happens. And then it's like, well, then it's back up, and then it goes back down. And you just see that like Morpheus stays the same. And in that issue, the man challenges Morpheus of like, why do you talk to me? Like, why do you care? Like, why should I matter at all to you? It's like, because you're lonely. And he's like, you don't even... It's such a great issue because Morpheus gets embarrassed and he gets furious, and seeing that kind of fury from an idea is very scary. And
it's interesting. It's really interesting.
So, I just spoiled an issue for you, so please check it out. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And let us know if you're willing to check this out, and also what we should read next week. You mentioned Lock and Key, and since the series just wrapped the first season of it, and they're getting a season 2, I think I might just do the first volume of Lock and Key, because that's a really good... I've talked about it nonstop, and I know you're a fan of it. If you'd like to join me, you can, or we can invite people on as well, or we can invite you guys on, because I think my computer has just enough processing power to do that. I don't know for how long.
Yeah, by the way, the fan that you heard last week was just his computer fan running. It wasn't like a fan in the room. That was just how hard his computer was working.
It's hustling. I'll put the mic close to it, but you can kind of hear it's like... It's just working so hard. You're probably getting backgrounds of it. And also, gang, if you wouldn't mind, would you mind spamming the chat with little hearts or likes for Taylor? Because I appreciate you joining me and coming on to talk about this with me. And you guys have been very sweet. And hopefully you guys are enjoying this. This is a fun series for me to be able to revisit comics and also share them with people I like. So
he likes me.
I like her. So if you guys enjoyed this, please throw some likes in the chat and in the comments, and also give me recommendations. We're gonna do Lock and Key Volume 1 next week. I'll call it now. That way people know earlier than what I've normally done. So that way it'll make it a little bit easier. Please share. Check out Drunk Poet Society anywhere you get your podcasts.
If anyone wants to read books that don't have pictures. I know, crazy, but
so hard.
But super fun, and we make cocktails to theme each book.
That's pretty cool.
So I guess 21 and up.
But some of those cocktails are pretty good, and I did one for Watchmen, which was just a lot of sugar.
It was, but it was good.
It was good.
It was fun to talk about.
So please go check that out and support. Also, maybe check out turmericlattemix.com. Just throw it out there.
Being so nice.
Just give it a check. Just give it a little shout. Thank you to Danny M. We've got Danny Boy, Ambrosia.
I want to shout out Danny Boy. He likes a lot of the Drunk Poet stuff and other stuff. So thanks.
Oh, Danny, you're so sweet, man. Thank you. And I can't see. I'm gonna make sure I check over here with the other. We've got Wario1010. We've got Momin, we've got Caesar, we've got Caitlin Conway, we got Hubert, we got Super Mac, we got a lot of good folks. We also have David Backwards Dab over on Twitch. We appreciate you joining over there and supporting the Twitch channel, because I sure don't. So hopefully you enjoy. And if anyone's watching on Periscope, we got Zach watching on Periscope. We appreciate you. Best issue of that volume is called The Prequel. It's from Overture. Oh, the issue that I was discussing with the man. So it's Overture, and it's it's the prequel, best issue of the volume, maybe the whole series. Oh wow, that's pretty bold. We'll talk about also the Lock and Key series next week as well, because I've watched all of it and I've got opinions. So we'll get into that. Any final thoughts?
No, I was just seeing if anyone else was doing anything cool, but my Instagram decided to
poop out.
Well,
thank you to everyone who's watched over on Instagram. Maybe I can see. Hold on. Ow, did you hear that?
Yeah, I hope you heard all those creaks.
Oh wait, what's this one? Did you enjoy Rise of Skywalker? No, I didn't see it. Well, thanks for the question. I fucking love that video. Oh, Lazy Alaska knew what you were talking about, the cat video.
Thank you. It makes me smile.
Try the new Sandman. Billquist Everly's art is amazing. That's from Echo Spider. Is your camera a potato? No, it's just a regular old phone. We've got, have you checked TMNT Power Rangers crossover? No, I have not. Well, I haven't read any new issues because they stopped publishing right now. Next issue podcast is Echo Spider. Lazy Alaska, Dan the Drummer, Richard Godfrey, Curtis, Dragon Crazy, Ma Garrett, thank you so much for joining us. Gang, check out the links down below for the free places to read, and we'll see you guys next week. I'm going to push it back to the thumbnail. I think I can do this without breaking anything. Let's give it a try in 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.